Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio everybody. What is going on? It is Gale right here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi video, and today I'm going to be ranking every single Danmachi light novel that has been written by Fujino Omori. Well, I don't know of any other Danmachi light novel that hasn't been written by Fujino Omori, but I'm going to be ranking all of them into this tier list, and I'm going to be causing some chaos in the comment section. I can already feel it, I'm not going to lie. I can already feel the fact that I'm probably going to cause some chaos in the comment section based on my opinion. So of course, if you guys going to enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more Danmachi content, and let me know in the comment section down below, was I right in my decision making? Do you guys think some of the light novels should have been higher, some of them should have been lower? Let me know. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Also, on top of that, if you want to participate in this and create your own tier lists and maybe take a picture of it and leave it in the comment section down below so that I can see it, of course, I will be leaving a link to this tier list down below in the description, which will be completely clear, and you guys can create your own tier list without having to move my stuff, basically. So of course, I will be giving you guys that option. Now, before we get into the ranking itself, I want to note three things. Three key things that I want to note before we get into the ranking. So first and foremost, I am including Argonaut and Astrea Record. While they are danmemo originals, they are now light novels as well. Well, one of them is Astrea Record, has been adapted into light novel format last year. Of course, October to December was the run. Volume 1 October, Volume 2 November, Volume 3 December. But Argonaut is also going to become a light novel later this year in July and August. So I have decided to include both of them because they are now light novels. Of course, if the other danmemo stories become light novels, right, say for example Knights of Fianna or Vesta, I will also include them in the future when we do revisit this, maybe after volume 19, maybe we'll see. And the second thing I want to note is that I am also including Danmachi volume 18, SO13 and SO14 on this list, even though they haven't been translated into English. Especially in the case of volume 18 and SO13, we know a lot of the story and a lot of the spoilers already. Now in this video, I will try and keep it as vague as possible. Like I'll be saying, like, I like generally how they went with this character's approach, how they did this, how they did that, but I won't go into specifics about what exactly goes on the story and what the story is about, of course, and you know, the spoilers for the end of the arc and everything of that sort. I'm not going to get into that at all. And in fact, I haven't even read anything about SO14. I can't even find SO14 spoilers, to be honest. I know the general synopsis of what happens, but that's about it. So I'm put it at the end because I have no idea what to say about it, to be quite honest. So it's at the end. And the third thing I want to point out is that I am going to be deleting the D row for me personally, because in all honesty, I don't really think there's a really bad light novel that has been written by Fujino Omori when it comes to the Danmachi series. Of course, there have been some average ones, which is the C rank for me personally. That's my average point. But I feel like more often than not, he's definitely done more good novels than average novels, and there's definitely been no bad novels, in my personal opinion at least. I know for others, it may be the case where he's done bad novels, but for me personally, I don't think there's been a true miss whatsoever. So I am going to remove the D tier, and it's going to be C, B, A, and S, of course, as my tiers, basically, for this video. Now, let's get to tier listing, and let's start ranking all of these Danmachi light novels. And we're going to start us off with Danmachi Volume 1, which I am going to put in C tier. I know some of you guys will say blasphemy and everything, and I still do believe maybe I'm being a bit blasphemous. Potentially, I could put this a little bit higher, but you have to realize that this was Omori Sensei's first work. Nostalgia aside, I really like the world building. That aside and everything, I still think Omori Sensei was very rough with this piece of work, and it makes sense because this is his first piece of work, right? So for me, putting it in C tier makes sense. And along with it, to be quite honest, Volume 2 can go into C tier. Volume 3, where it is, there it is. Volume 3 goes into B tier, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. Volume 4 goes into C tier, and Volume 5 goes into B tier. Now, the reason why I've put Volume 3 in B tier is because I think it just sets up so much for what happens in the future. Bell and Eyes, Bell and the Minotaur, and so on and so forth. I think it just sets up quite a bit. So for me, putting it in B tier makes sense. Now, Volume 5, the reason why I put that in B tier as well is because I feel like this is where Omori Sensei started coming into his own. He started doing better with his writing, and I genuinely think that volume 5 showed that slight jump up in the quality from volumes 1 to 4 to volume 5. So for me, I think putting it in B tier makes sense. And then along with it, I'm gonna also put volume 6 and 7 in B tier. Now, this might be a little controversial because I do like volume 6 and 7. I think if I were to look at it as the light novels alone, I think you could make an argument and say I'd probably put volume 7 in A tier. I'd probably keep volume 6 in B tier potentially. But I think my vision of these light novels have been so warped by the anime that I can't put them higher than B. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have been scarred by the anime. I don't know what they were thinking with the anime. And I think the reason why I'm putting them in B as well is because my last memory of these two arcs was from the anime. Now, that's not to say that everything is bad with these two arcs. Like I said, I really like these arcs. I think I like these arcs more than other people do, because I know a lot of other people don't like these two arcs because they don't revolve around the dungeon. But I like it even more because of that, because this is the first time Amori Sensei is properly focusing on familiar conflicts and actually dealing with the darker side of Horario, effectively with the war games, with the Ishtar familia and everything of that sort. I think it is beautifully written in terms of expanding the world beyond the dungeon. I think that's what was important, because I felt like sticking to the dungeon is great and all, but with everything that is happening in Horario, the other familiars and everything, I think it would have been a missed opportunity if he had stuck himself into the dungeon, right? So for me, I think this was fantastic, and it's one of the reasons why I was even considering putting volume 2 in B tier, because of the whole familiar conflicts thing, because of course this was the first time we got to see the darker side of like the Soma familia and everything with volume 2 and how they were treating Lily, right? So for me, I was considering it, and I'm still considering it. We'll come back to it later on and see what happens. But for now, I think volume 6 and 7 go into B tier. The next arc I want to tackle, and the next light novel I want to tackle, is of course the, as I like to call it, the character development light novel of volume 8. And I think I'm gonna put it in... I want to put it in A. Part of me wants to put it in A. Can I make a B plus tier? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it definitive tiers. And I think I'm going to put volume 8 in B tier. Maybe put it at the high end of B tier. It's not really organized, but I'm just going to put it at the higher end of B tier just for my own sake, because I genuinely really like volume 8. Of course, again, expanding on the world outside of not only the dungeon, but Horario with Rakia and all the external villages. We got to see, obviously, a look into potentially other gods and goddesses like Ares, Bridget, of course, right? Then we obviously got to see Aiza's first, proper anger against the one-eyed black dragon in that light novel as well, along with all the other developments we got for other characters that unfortunately never got adapted into anime format. Of course, if you guys want to experience the light novel but don't want to read the light novel, of course, of volume 8, you guys can go to YouTube and check out the, I think it's like A Certain God and Familia's Tale or something like that. I had to give it to a friend of mine. His name is Wyatt, one of my mods actually, and I basically told him like this was the light novel, Certain Gods and Familiar Love Tales. There you go. That's the event name. Danmemo actually adapted a majority of the volume 8, if not a lot of the volume 8 content. So I would highly advise you guys to go and watch that, because it gives you guys so much insight on certain characters that unfortunately the anime never tackled, sadly. And I think it's a big L on the anime's behalf, because I think that was something that they missed out on entirely. Now, I want to go on to probably one of the best arcs in Danmachi. I think a lot of people rate this arc very, very highly, and rightfully so. Of course, I'm talking about volumes 9 to 11. I think I'm going to put volume 9 in A. Volume 10 and 11 I'm putting in S. I think, oh wait, that's the wrong one. That is Sword of Rotoria 9. That is Sword of Rotoria 9. I'm putting volumes 10 and 11 in S and volume 9 in A. Now, the reason why I'm just putting volume 9 a little bit lower is because I feel like it was the setup stage, right? It was the setup stage. I think it was handled exceptionally, because you could start to see the inner conflicts of Bell in this arc, right? In this specific light novel, you could start seeing his conflicts regarding monsters, the Xenoses and everything. I think it was well done in volume 9, but it was definitely the setup. And then volume 10 and 11 truly started to challenge Bell's ideologies, and of course make him face very difficult decisions that I feel the anime never conveyed properly, because for some reason they decided that, 12 episodes was just fine for the Xenos arc. I will always hate them for that, but, banter aside, they did improve that in volumes 12 to 14, making it 2 cores, of course, 24 episodes, or I think it was 22 episodes actually. But I will never forgive them for making it only 12 episodes for this arc. Either way, all that aside, anime aside, light novels, I think volume 9 deserves to be an A. I don't think it's higher, but I do think 10 and 11 deserve to be an S. I will not accept putting them lower. I can see people putting volume 9 higher though. I do believe that, and I can see why people would put that higher. Next up we have volume 12, which I cannot recognize for some reason. There it is, volume 12. I'm putting volume 12 in A. I think it was a good, sort of in between phase, sort of similar to this arc, but I think of course you got to see a little bit more of the dungeon here. We were going officially back into the dungeon properly, the expedition and everything. I think that was very well handled, and I just generally like the introduction of some of the other Xenoses like Marie and stuff, and then of course the interactions between all these gathered familiar members that the Hestia familiar got for the expedition. Uka, Chigusa, Aisha, so on and so forth. I think it was well done there, and I really, really liked it. But I don't think it's not S tier for sure, in my personal opinion. On the other hand, volumes 13 and 14, I mean, need I say more? Unbelievably well done arcs by Amori Sensei in volumes 13 to 14. Exceptionally well done, tackled the dangers of the dungeon extremely well, and overall, gave us a better insight into the darkness that is the dungeon, right? And also on top of that, it gave us a form of actual fear for our characters, because I feel like when you look at some of the earlier light novels, maybe you could say volumes 10 and 11 was where we had that little bit of fear and little bit of we were scared for our protagonists. I think volumes 13 and 14 truly got that across with the events that happened in those light novels. So for me, 13 and 14 go straight in there. Volume 15, I'm gonna put it in A tier, very similar to volume 8, but I think it was done a little bit better because we were starting to, at this point we were well into the life of Danmachi. Amori Sensei's writing was way better at this point, of course, right, on top of that. And then just generally as well, we were getting deeper and deeper into certain characters' backgrounds and stuff. So for me, I think volume 15 goes into A tier. 16, 17, and 18. Ooh, I think a lot of people will be a little bit peeved off at me for where I'm gonna place these stories. Volume 16 is A, 17 is S, 18 is A. I think volume 18 does have its flaws, and I want to tackle volume 18 first because I know a lot of people who have read volume 18, maybe spoilers, maybe the actual, word for word translation that's, ongoing right now still. Maybe some people have read the early days of this chapter. I know a lot of people would be clamoring for this one to probably be in B tier, but I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, with what I know, with what goes down and everything, I think it was done well. I just think that maybe things could have been handled a little bit better. It made it a little bit more believable in certain situations, but I think overall it was well done. I think a lot of people are over exaggerating over exaggerating how bad it is, because it's not that bad in my personal opinion. I struggled to speak there because I wasn't sure if I was calling it correctly, but I think people were over exaggerating how bad it is, because I think it is good. Volume 17 I really like is because this is yet another situation where it's, you're seeing Bell question himself at this point in a very precarious scenario. Now the reason why I'm not saying what scenario it is because I know people are anime onlys at this point, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I know a lot of people love this light novel, and I genuinely liked it because, again, like I said, Bell has been put in this precarious scenario and you're seeing him question himself again at this point and slowly lose belief in himself as well, slowly but surely. But of course, and the way Amori executed the ending of volume 17, I think was very well done. Very much like it. I think it deserves to be an S for sure. Now that's all we have for Danmachi volumes 1 to 18. I want to tackle the Familiar Chronicles next. Before we get into everything else, I want to tackle the Familiar Chronicles next. Now, Episode Ryu, I think I'm gonna put in B, and the reason why I'm putting it in B is because even though I really liked episode Ryu, right? At the time we hadn't gotten anything regarding Astrea Familia through Astrea Record. We hadn't gotten anything through volumes 12 to 14. Episode Ryu takes place, or released, I should say, a little bit before everything came out, right? About Ryu as a whole. So at the time, I think I would have probably put episode Ryu on A tier, because we got to know a little bit more about this amazing character that was a little bit of a secret at the time, right? It felt like, at least by a lot of individuals in the community. I think Ryu, before the events of Astrea Record and of course the Astrea Familia stuff in volumes 12 to 14, felt like a little bit of a secret. At the end of the day, we didn't know much about her backstory, even though we knew that it was a little bit dark potentially. All we knew was that that was it, basically, right? And then she was the Gale Ryu Leon, basically, and she was she had a bounty on her. So it was pretty good at the time. But of course, with everything that's come out since then, I feel like it's gone down a little bit because of everything that we know about Ryu now, because of all these other stories. And on top of that, while we do get to learn a lot more about the Hostess of Fertility and the members of the Hostess of Fertility, I think I would still place it in B tier for sure. Episode Freya, I think B tier as well. I think B tier. While we get to learn more about the Freya Familia and Freya herself, of course, I feel like it's a little bit, what's the best way to put it? It's definitely getting you to read episode Freya because of what happens in volume 16 to 18, right? I think that's the main reason why I'm putting the episode Freya in B tier, because it felt very forceful of exactly what they were trying to achieve. And that was basically them saying like, okay, we need you to learn about the backstory of episode Freya, or just the Freya Familia and Freya, so that you're ready for what's coming up. Basically, that's the idea here. So for me, I think that's the only negative about the episode Freya content, is purely because I feel like, this could have been handled way better. I feel maybe if it wasn't necessarily so forceful on that fact where you basically are like, all right, you need to go and get ready for what's coming up in volume 16 to 18, basically. So that's the reason why I will place it there. Let's move on to Sword Oratoria now. Okay, so I want to put volumes 1, 2, 3, 4 I'm gonna put here again, because again, very similar to volume 3. I'm gonna put these up in there because this is of course the anime content, and of course it's once again Omori's early days. This is very much Omori's early days, so for me, I think putting them into this B and C tier makes sense. And it's still of course the early days of Orario, the present day Orario that we know as well, hence why they're there. Maybe I would probably put volume 3. Yeah, I'm gonna put volume 3 in B tier. I think it's still very solid, but it's still developing these characters that some of these characters people didn't like, especially characters like Lafia. And then of course Aiz was still being developed as a character. So obviously early days of the Loki Familia weren't great, but they were getting better and better. And trust me when I say this, they were definitely getting better and better. So now I move on to volumes 5 and 6. I think I'm gonna pair them together because they are one arc effectively. Sort of, not really, sort of. They are one arc. I'm gonna put volume 5 and 6 in B tier as well. Very solid, definitely above average. Enjoyed them. Didn't connect with them as much as I probably should have, though. I think that's my main issue, is I didn't connect with it as much as I should have. And the same thing with volume 7 and 8, although volume 7 a little bit less so, hence why I'm putting it in A. But volume 8 I feel like is also going in B. So volume 7, the reason why I adore it is because this is where high stakes truly come into play, and arguably Sword Oratoria brought higher stakes in first before the main series did, and volume 7 definitely brought that into play, especially with the death of Line and everything. It was well done. It was honestly super well done. The way they handled the Gnosis the first time they went to Gnosis and everything, I think it was excellent with volume 7. Still didn't fully connect with it, because then in volume 8 with Beth's story and everything, I just never really fully connected with it. I liked it. I definitely think Beth became a better character for me after the events of volume 8, so I guess, Omori Sensei got a dub there, I suppose. But some of the decisions that were made behind the scenes by the editor, such as, for example, not killing off Lena and stuff like that, I think that was a little bit of an L, and hence why I'm putting it in B tier. Volume 9, I will put in B tier alongside Volume 8. I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense because Volume 9 and Volume 8, if you haven't checked out my chronological order, happen at very similar times, and a lot of it is also flashbacks on Aiza's past. So you could make an argument and push it up into A tier potentially, but I think I'm gonna put it in B tier for now. I think I will put it in B tier for now. So for me, that is Volume 9 there. Now I move on to Volume 10, and even though it takes place during Volumes 10 to 11, I will put it in A tier because I feel like there was something missing, it felt like, when it came to Volume 10. Of course, Aiza's questioning of what Belle was doing, and generally the Loki Familia, and just wondering what the hell is going on, what is the Hestia Familia doing, and the Xenoses and everything. I still feel like something was missing from that Volume 10 light novel. It was amazing, but I felt like it was just missing that edge to make it on par with the actual Xenos arc light novels from the main series. So for me, I think putting it in A makes sense. Honestly, I do believe that. Volumes 11 and 12, I don't need to add any more about these two light novels. I think it makes sense for me to put them in volumes in volumes 11 and 12. I don't know what I was trying to say there. It makes sense for me to put volumes 11 and 12 into the S tier. There we go. Got there in the end. We got there in the end. But yeah, I think making it an S tier makes sense. I love these two volumes. They are amazing. Of course, experiencing them again in danmemo, and of course rereading them recently as well. Absolutely fantastic. Honestly, genuinely a joy to read. So for me, I am putting it in S tier. Sword Art Oratoria 13, I'll put in A. I think, you know, the way they handled some of the storytelling points in SO13, along with the introduction of certain characters, this was definitely a world-building light novel, for sure. But I think it was one of Omori's best, in all honesty, based on what I've seen. So, again, I'm gonna have to wait and see what the actual, like, you know, word-for-word translation looks like by Yen Press or whoever gets around to translating SO13. But for me personally, I think putting it in A tier for now makes sense just because of what we're introduced to, as well as dealing with the aftermath of Volume 12. If you know, you know, of course, right? So yeah, I'm gonna put that there. Now, for me, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Astray Record and Argonaut S tier easily. This is, I'm not gonna lie, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put these here. This is genuinely Omori Sensei's best works, frankly speaking. Forget the main series, forget Sword Oratoria. My man needs to literally just write stuff about the Age of Heroes and just everything that's happened in the past, because he does a way better job at that than he does with what's happening in the present timeline, man. I'm not gonna lie, bro. He is so good with this sort of stuff. Honestly, genuinely so good. I love Argonaut's storyline. I think it's his best work, frankly speaking, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. And then, of course, Astray Record as well. It does develop a lot of plot holes potentially for the main series, some may argue, but I genuinely believe it also develops the world a lot more than it does develop plot holes, in my personal opinion. And I think I value that way more because I just enjoy all the stories that we got from Astray Record, all the different storylines that happened in that light novel. Fantastic. Honestly fantastic. So for me, I think this is my tier list. Of course, I haven't ranked SO14. Like I said, I haven't read SO14, so I'm not gonna place it anywhere, to be quite honest. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I'll be leaving a link to this tier list down below in the description so you guys can create it yourself. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with some stuff, disagree with others? Let me know. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.